We're 9 games into the season now, and we've had a good look at every single team in the Championship. Some teams have started much better than many expected, some have started a lot worse. But now that we've had the chance to take in each side and also their transfer business, we're in a better position now to judge how they'll do this season than we were at the very beginning. Of course, this is still all very speculative, but it's an international break, so why not? I'm Ryan Dilks from the second tier, and here are my updated league table predictions. 24th, Plymouth Argyle. Oh boy, I'm sure this one is going to go down well. I'll start off by saying I found it very difficult to pick anyone to be bottom, but if I'm going to go with one, I would say Plymouth. Look, they started the season abysmally and they were absolutely terrible under Wayne Rooney. Now, we have seen some improvement from them recently, but I think there's still concerns in the long term. This squad is still looking weak to me without a lot of depth. Some players have been showing promise, but if you're asking them to do the business for an entire season, it's a big ask. They're still giving away a lot of chances at the back and not creating a whole host of chances going forward. Their attack is relying a lot on the two wingers, Ibrahim Sissoko and Morgan Whittaker. Sissoko, who's only on loan and still just 21 by the way. If anything happens to those two, then I'm sceptical to say the least about whether they've got enough talent in their ranks to make up for it. Particularly with a coach in Wayne Rooney, who I unsurprisingly still don't rate highly, despite the recent upturn in form. They've picked up some big results at home park recently, and that's great, but if you boil it down to the overall strength of the squad and the manager, I struggle to pick out anyone else who's weaker in that regard than Plymouth. 23rd, Cardiff City. Cardiff City are a club I'm very concerned about. They of course had a stinking start under Eric Bullitt, which led to him getting sacked. Now, at the time of recording, they haven't appointed a new manager. I don't have a lot of faith in the Cardiff hierarchy getting that appointment right, but you've got to be worried about how they've played so far anyway. They are so poor going forward, and I think goals will be a big problem in the long term. They're also not looking as solid at the back as they were last season. Now, a lot can change depending on who comes in as manager, but I also won't be surprised if this poor start is a sign of things to come, considering, as I alluded to in one of my recent videos, Cardiff are a club who have been circling the drain for a long time. 22nd, Oxford United. Perhaps a bit of a surprise one considering how well they've started this season, but I would still say Oxford's main aim should be just to survive this season. I think their results are starting to average themselves out after a flying start. They were massively helped by Mark Harris scoring goals for fun, but they've now dried up for him, and I'm unsure where else the goals are going to come from in the long term. They've been really competitive in games and given some good teams really tough contests. However, they've still got to play plenty of the very best teams in the league, and I think their results will dip over the coming months, and I reckon they'll just fall short of staying up. 21st, Derby County. Derby are another newly promoted side who have had a great start, probably a lot better than many Derby fans expected, and I've gained confidence that they will stay up this season. That should definitely still be the aim for Derby despite their start. Pride Park is proving to be a real fortress for them, winning 4 of their 5 games at home so far. Away form is a big concern though. A lot of their new signings have looked very good. Jacob Widdle-Zetterstrom has quickly become a fan favourite in goal. Kenzo Halmeen and David Ozo in midfield look like two very classy players. Caden Jackson been lively. Marcus Harness and Nat Phillips have been lightly used so far, but are two very good players for Derby. Goals could be an issue in the long term, but defensively they're proving to be a real stubborn side to play against, just like they were last season, and that could be enough to see them survive this season. 20th, Portsmouth. It's only just occurred to me I've had the 3 newly promoted sides right next to each other in the order that they finished in League One last season. I'm not sure if that's some sort of a coincidence, but I'm going with Portsmouth to finish 20th. Pompey have had a disappointing start, but they've also had possibly the most difficult set of opening fixtures in Championship history. The fact they managed to get draws against Leeds, Luton and Middlesbrough is worthy of praise. Their form recently hasn't been great, including a 6-1 loss at Stoke, but in time I think they will turn a corner. This team cruised League One last season and was strengthened over the summer in my book. My main concern would be whether the momentum of winning promotion has been taken away by their really difficult start, but the new signings have looked bright, particularly Josh Murphy, and players are also coming back from injury. Plus, they've got some very inviting fixtures coming up all the way up until December, which is no surprise really, considering they've played most of the most difficult teams in the division already this season, so that should see them slowly but surely start to climb the table. 19th, Millwall. It's been a pretty unremarkable start to the season for Millwall, and I think it'll be a pretty unremarkable season overall. Perhaps looking over their shoulder a tiny bit. As you'd suspect with a Neil Harris team, they've been decent at the back recently. Scoring goals could be an issue though. Unlike a Neil Harris team, the underlying data has them down as one of the best chance-creating teams in the league so far. The issue is putting it in the back of the net. Now, Duncan Watmore has had a fantastic start, but I don't think that will last. And their strikers aren't exactly looking prolific so far. I also remain unconvinced by Neil Harris as a manager and his tactical ability. Also got to be mentioned that they've played just one of the teams I have in the top 7 of this league table, so tougher games are on the horizon for the Lions. 18th, Preston North End. I am a bit worried about Preston. They've had a pretty messy first few weeks of the season with who was going to manage them. They also haven't seen a drastic improvement under Paul Heckingbottom since he's come in, but I think they have more than enough about them to stay clear of being in serious danger of going down. There haven't been many games so far where you could say they've definitely been the better team. If you look at the underlying data, it's quite concerning, but over time I have enough faith in Paul Heckingbottom to get it right and get Preston to pull away from the relegation zone. I'd be very surprised if they did any better than that though. 17th, Stoke City. Stoke are quite a difficult team to nail down under new manager Narcis Palach. I covered it in a recent video on this channel. Is he the man to turn things around at Stoke? Who really knows at this stage? What I can say is the likelihood is that it will take a bit of time for that to happen, and that's probably beyond this season. Stoke have got some exciting players, so you cannot rule them out finishing a few places higher than this. Unfortunately, you also can't rule out another season where they're fending off a relegation battle. So I've gone somewhere in the middle with my prediction. It is worth mentioning Stoke have finished between 14th and 17th for the past 6 seasons, and based off what I've seen so far, I would say there's a very, very high chance that happens again. As long as there isn't a self-implosion which sees them finish even lower, which unfortunately is always a possibility with Stoke City in recent years. 16th, Watford. Watford have been by far the big overachievers of the season so far and have possibly done enough already to dispel any fears of them going down like many people predicted them to do at the start of the season. It's difficult to see them hanging around in the top half of the table though. Things like a lack of investment in the squad and not much depth could become issues at some point. A defence which gives away a load of chances is also a problem, but Tom Cleverley is proving to be a really astute manager. The home record is superb, and players like Georgi Chakvetadze and Matty Pollock are thriving under him. So Cleverley deserves so much credit. It wouldn't surprise me if they actually finish higher than this, but for now I'm going on the side that Watford probably will drop off. 15th, Queen's Park Rangers. Surprisingly, they've had a poor start to the season, which has gone a bit unnoticed because they haven't been playing terribly. They've just not been getting the results. They haven't been as solid at the back as they were after Martí Cifuentes came in, and scoring goals is still a problem, but I would be extremely surprised if they were still down there as the season goes on. Firstly, Cifuentes is a brilliant manager, and QPR think so too, because they've just given him a new contract despite their struggles, and they should get better as time goes on. Elias Chair has been injured and he's coming back into the team. That will improve them going forwards. Jake Clark-Salter's also been injured recently and he will help them get better at the back. Plus Karamoko Dembele is a thrilling young lad who's had a great start despite QPR's struggles. There's more than enough at QPR for them to climb away from the bottom 3 and have a comfortable mid-table finish. 14th, Hull City. Hull are quite a difficult team to analyse because when they've been bad, they have been terrible. But when they've been good, they've been really good. It's always going to take time to adapt to how Tim Walter wants to play, considering it's so on the front foot. Plus, they've had a massive squad turnover in the summer. Overall, I would not be surprised if they finish higher than this. I wouldn't be surprised if they finish much lower than this either. Lower because I'm not totally sure about Tim Walter as a manager still and his risky style of play, but potentially higher because they have made some really good signings over the summer, a lot of young players who could really flourish as time goes on. So quite a wide barometer for Hull, but 14th would be a steady finish after a turbulent summer. 13th, Swansea City. It's extremely difficult to see Swansea City being anything other than a mid-table side this season. They're too good to be in any serious danger of going down, but they're also missing something for them to be challenging for the top six. Don't get me wrong, mid-table is fine for Swansea. It's Luke Williams' first full season in charge. He's getting across how he would like to play, and there needs to be patience with the project. I actually really like their team. They've got some very exciting players in there, but Williams has even admitted the squad needs a lot more, particularly in terms of depth, if they're going to cause any problems in this division. So they feel pretty nailed on to finish around this position. This video is brought to you by our good friends at SBK. If you haven't heard of them yet, then where have you been? SBK's comprehensive range of markets and exclusive offers makes it the best place to bet on the Championship this season. Whether you're creating an accumulator or customising your bet builder, SBK has got you covered. Don't believe us? Sign up today and find out. 12th, Blackburn Rovers. Blackburn are another team who have had a great start to the season, despite some having concerns that they could go down this season. And they've been by and large great in these first few games as well. New signings like Ahashi, Gay and Beck have hit the ground running. Lewis Travis has been playing his best football in years, and others like Callum Britton and Hayden Carter have been superb. The thing that could let Blackburn down though is creating chances. They're lacking something in the final third, and squad depth may also be a problem compared to the top teams in the division. But John Eustace is a really good manager who can keep Blackburn fighting in the top half of the table. 11th, Sheffield Wednesday. Wednesday seem to have turned a corner after a sticky patch, and they can start realising the top half expectations that a lot of people had them down for. Danny Rowell's an excellent young manager who got Wednesday playing last season despite a poor squad low on confidence. So this season, after making quite a few signings over the summer, it was a surprise to see them struggle with a new and improved squad. Maybe it took time for them to gel, but they look like they're getting going. Barry Bannon is playing his best football at Championship level in a long time. Shay Charles has looked good since coming in. James Beadle is a fantastic young goalkeeper. They should finish in the mid-table / top half area, and it would be difficult to see them finishing any higher than that, but hey, it's an improvement on last season, that's got to be said. 10th, Bristol City. It's been a bit of a mixed start for Bristol City, and they've got some tricky games coming up, but I've got faith in the project that's happening there. They've got a lot of players who I really like, such as Luke McNally, Max Bird, Jason Knight and Scott Twine. They're building something exciting at Ashton Gate with some young players. Liam Manning's a really good manager as well. Some Bristol City fans still need selling on him a bit more, but I've got plenty of belief in him, and I think they will end up having a really good season. I can see them having plenty more ups and downs as the season goes on, but it should be one which takes them in the right direction overall. 9th, Luton Town. Luton have had a stinking start to the season, and unless something remarkable happens, it's probably going to cost them any chance of a top 6 finish. Their squad is more than good enough to finish in the top 6, perhaps even higher, but they've been terrible so far, so much so that it's led to Rob Edwards being under huge pressure. Can he turn it around? Who knows? If not, will Luton sack him and get the right manager in? I would back them to get that right. So I think one way or another, Luton will come good this season, but the likelihood is that terrible start has cost them any chance of bouncing back at the first time of asking, unfortunately. 8th, Coventry City. Another team who have had a shocking start. The difference with Coventry is they've done this for the past 2 seasons now. And what happens is they suddenly turn really good around November time. The same thing may very well happen again this season. It just depends whether they've left too much ground for them to make up in terms of getting into the playoffs. Coventry have such a talented squad, and this slow start really shouldn't be happening, so it'll be interesting to see where they are around March time. Ultimately, they've spent a lot of money on this squad and really should be looking towards the Premier League, but it's proving difficult to do that when they are effectively giving themselves a false start again and again. We're now at the top 7, and I'm pretty confident this will be the top 7 come the end of the season, unless Coventry or Luton have a ridiculous turnaround. Actually choosing the order of the top 7 is a much more of a challenge. 7th, West Bromwich Albion. I wanted to put West Brom higher on this list, but as I was putting the table together, I just found myself putting them lower and lower. Don't get me wrong, with Carlos Corberán in charge, anything is possible. I include even finishing in the top 2 in that. I genuinely do. And that's because they were phenomenal in their first 6 games of the season. They have dropped off recently, but I took a lot of encouragement from those first few opening games. And we saw last season that they're capable of being extremely consistent all season. So why didn't I have them in my top 7? There's a few things. Firstly is the January transfer window. West Brom are abiding by an EFL imposed proposed business plan, which could limit how much they're allowed to do, whereas I imagine the other teams in the top 7 will strengthen. I'm slightly concerned about goals because while Josh Maja has started the season in sensational form, I'm not sure who else is going to be scoring regularly if his goals were to dry up. There are a few who could definitely step up, but that would be a concern for me. And the final thing is possibly the main one. What if Carlos Corberán leaves? I think he will be the subject of interest from other clubs as the season goes on, and you can't rule out him going. But as I said at the start, if he stays, it wouldn't surprise me if West Brom actually end up competing for automatic promotion and make me look a bit silly having them 7th in the table. So anything's possible for West Brom at this stage. 6th, Burnley. I'll say this right now, out of all the teams I have in my top 7, Burnley are the one I'm most confident about not finishing in the top 2. With Burnley, we're starting to see more and more the same problems that Scott Parker's football has seen in the past. Not the most exciting and struggling to break down the teams they should be beating. This Burnley squad should be in the conversation for the title, but I really can't see it happening with Scott Parker. They're not losing many games or conceding many goals, but winning games is becoming a problem because they're just so lifeless going forwards. Only Plymouth, Preston and Cardiff have a lower XG than them, which is balmy considering how good they are in terms of the players that they've got. I was strongly considering leaving them outside of my top 6, but I think they will scrape together enough points for that. I'd be amazed if they were to finish in the top 2 though. 5th, Middlesbrough. I know it's a very strange thing to say about a side who currently sit 9th in the table and only have 4 wins from 9, but I've actually been impressed with Middlesbrough so far. They've probably been the better team in just about every game so far. The issue is, and you'll be well aware of this by now if you listen to the podcast, is putting away chances. It'd be quite mind-blowing to see a montage of chances missed by Middlesbrough already this season. If they were clinical, they would possibly be top of the league right now with quite a gap on the rest of the teams. My thinking is that it will just click with them sooner rather than later. Emmanuel Latte-Lath was on fire at the end of last season, and while he has strangely played well, he has just got the 1 goal. So for me, it's a matter of when, not if, Middlesbrough get going, because defensively they've been great, creating chances, they've been excellent. It's just about putting those chances away. 4th, Sheffield United. Sheffield United are the only team unbeaten in the EFL at the time of recording and have had an unbelievable start. There's been no hangover at all from last season's nightmare. They signed brilliantly well over the summer and their squad is looking so strong. They're rock solid at the back, only conceding 3 goals in 9 games. There's a lot going for them in terms of being a team which finishes in the top 2, and I would by no means rule it out. There's a few things holding me back with Sheffield United though. The first thing is they've had quite a generous start to the season in terms of fixtures. The other thing is, despite them being unbeaten, I haven't come away from many games being massively impressed with them. Considering their squad, I think they're very capable of doing that, but it feels like they don't want to move out of second gear. I also get the sense with Chris Wilder that he's never too far away from losing his head and falling out with people, as it's been a common theme in his recent career. So as impressive as Sheffield United have been, I'm not getting carried away with them just yet, hence why I've got them 4th. 3rd, Sunderland. This has been the start to the season of dreams for Sunderland. Top of the league at the time of recording with 6 wins from 9. They have been a joy to watch. Their young and exciting team have taken the league by storm under Regis Lebris, and I think they can continue to be strong as the season goes on. Let's not forget, after last season's debacle, a top 6 finish would have been a dream finish for them this season, let alone being in the conversation for the top 2. Sunderland have seen their performances start to drop off a bit after their flying start, and I also wonder whether their inexperience in the team could affect them towards the latter end of the season. But I could also see the young players in their team only getting better and better, particularly Joe Bellingham and Chris Rigg in midfield. And as time goes on, it's going to be a real test of Lebris to make sure these young players aren't burnt out towards the end of the season. But I'm very excited about Sunderland, and I think a 3rd place finish would be a great reflection of how fantastic they have been so far this season, and hopefully will continue to be as time goes on. 2nd, Norwich City. This is a bold pick. I'm aware of that, but I'm seeing some extremely encouraging signs with Norwich City. They had a slow start where they failed to win in their first 3 but have suddenly come flying out the traps. Boya Sainz has been on fire and has probably been the best player in the Championship so far this season. Josh Sargent is a Premier League striker, I've always said this, and has 7 goal contributions already. Marcelino Nunes has also been incredible in midfield, and Callum Doyle could very well be one of the signings of the season at the back. The crazy thing is Norwich have spent around 20 million this summer, and most of those new signings haven't got going yet, but they're showing clear signs of improvement. One to watch in that regard is Ante Cernak, a 20-year-old Croatian winger who they spent £9 million on. They have a lot of firepower at Norwich and are playing some beautiful football under their new manager, Johannes Hoff Thorpe. Am I getting carried away after their recent form? I genuinely don't think I am, because they're getting better and better at a frightening pace. And this is your warning right now. Do not sleep on Norwich City this season. And the team I reckon will finish top of the Championship this season, Leeds United. It's probably the boring choice, but I right now struggle to see anyone else finishing above Leeds United. They've been pretty flat this season. 4 wins from 9 means they've not taken the league by storm. It's up to you how you interpret that. My gut feeling though is that they will come good. Their squad is simply too strong. The back 4 is without a doubt the best in the league. Willy Gnonto is arguably the most talented attacker in the league. The likes of Mana Solomon and Lodger Ramazani will provide a lot of threat down the other wing. A big concern with Leeds is this spine. Injuries to Ethan Ampadu and Ilya Gruev in midfield are huge. Brendan Aronson has been very underwhelming so far, but they don't really have anyone else who can fill their number 10 role. And it's unclear who the best front man is going to be out of Matteo Joseph and Joel Pirro. But when all is said and done, they've got the strongest squad and enough depth, and it should see them by. I suppose another concern is Daniel Farke and whether he's able to iron out the inconsistency, which has been a problem for Leeds ever since last March. You need to be consistent to win the Championship. However, we are talking about a guy who's been and done it before with promotion. So, in my eyes, everything is pointing to Leeds United being a Premier League team once again next season. So there you have it, my updated league table predictions. What do you think? Let me know in the comment section below. If you've enjoyed the video, then make sure you give it a like and subscribe for more content like this. I'm Ryan Dilks from the Second Tier, and we'll be back again very soon.